Fiji Rugby has always been magical. Flick passes, offloads, outrageous footwork, and attacking brilliance that defies conventional logic. My first introduction to Fiji Rugby being in the 7 segment of Bill McLaren's Greatest Rugby Moments, which is a great watch and still holds up. But what that segment did was show Fiji Rugby in all its glory, as the best improvised attacking team when there's space around, with players still to this day being unplayable, almost mythical talents. But often those talents have been utilised in the same positions, back rows, centres, wings, with pivots and 7s often playing fullback in the 15s game. But we've never really seen a world-class outstanding talent playing fly half for the Flying Fijians. Well, I think very soon that might be about to change, with the emergence of Caleb Muntz. Let's talk about it. So before I proceed to completely jump the gun, let's get some background on Fiji's history with the 10 jersey. Now, Fiji have never lacked talent in rugby. From Wasali Sirevi to Nemani Nandolo, Leon Nakarawa and Semi Radraja, you name them, they've got the gift. And Fijian rugby players have been highlight reels of brilliance wherever and whenever they've played. But despite their strength in the backs and at the breakdown, one of the positions that they have yet to have a world beater in is fly half. Traditionally, Fijian 10s have either been converted fullbacks or centres whose natural play and instincts haven't really prioritised tactical control, or imports from overseas systems like Australia or New Zealand who maybe weren't at the level needed to truly excel or take the team to the next level. But shout out to Nicky Little, he was great, I love him, and great for the time. But as rugby has gotten more and more professional and structured, the need for your fly-half to be a game manager at the professional level has now gone from a desire to a prerequisite. Now the bare minimum for a professional fly-half is to control the tempo of the game, kick for territory, either on the front foot to space or on the back foot to relieve pressure, usually high kicks to compete, direct and organise the forwards in attack, stay calm under pressure, and be a great goal kicker. And these things are what Caleb Muntz excels at, whilst also having the silky skills that you expect of an international level fly half. Born in New Zealand, Caleb Muntz got his rugby education within the Kiwi system, attending Hamilton Boys High School, one of New Zealand's strongest rugby schools, which as a place for learning your craft in the game of rugby union, having alumni of the calibre of Sevu Reece, Quinta Paya and Tawera Karbala, you could do worse. And his rugby IQ is actually something that has been the most outstanding thing about him to me as a player. He's someone who didn't break into Super Rugby immediately, but as he was eligible for Fiji through his grandparents, in 2019 he joined the Fijian Drua, who were then playing in Australia's National Rugby Championship, or the NRC. Then when the Drua eventually moved into Super Rugby Pacifica in 2022, Caleb was now playing consistently at a higher level and didn't look out of place at all. Fast forward to 2023 and he's called up to the Flying Fijian squad. Now, there are 3 games over the years that I believe illustrate perfectly what a talent this young man is, with a different core skill of his game being shown in each. These games being the 2023 World Cup warm-up against England, the 2024 Autumn Series away win against Wales, and the most recent 2025 loss against Australia. All international tests, all high intensity, all excellent and integral performances. So the first game I mentioned, I believe it was Caleb's mental fortitude that shone through. Now, some context for the first game. England are low on confidence going into this game due to an underwhelming Six Nations campaign before this. But it's a World Cup year, anything can happen, and with it being Courtney Lawes' 100th test, us English fans were thinking this is a great chance to get a win under our belt and build some confidence. But Fiji and Caleb had other plans, and despite England going ahead early with a try from Johnny May, I was really impressed with Caleb's defence and calmness throughout this game. He's never doing too much, which you don't often see in young fly halves, and seems to trust his teammates quite a bit, which I think is a massive credit to his maturity as a player, and is probably why in the biggest game of his international career so far, he didn't look out of place or nervous at all. And throughout the game you see that this maturity in when the ball is in play also translates into a skill that even the best Fijian fly halves haven't always had, and that's being a great goal kicker in important games. With his 15 points off the boot leading his team to a 30 points to 22 victory for Fiji, including some very clutch penalties shocking the world. And I truly think if he hadn't got injured pre-World Cup, that England-Fiji quarter-final could have gone very differently. Now in this second game I mentioned, I believe Caleb Muntz showed how great a talent he is, and is the game I would point to a casual fan if you wanted them to understand what he's about. A man of the match performance leading Wales to their 10th successive loss in the row, doing all this while at times being down to 13 men due to red and yellow cards from his teammates, taking the ball to the line, breaking tackles, offloading, it was the whole package. But despite his Man of the Match award after the game, a lot of the attention after the game was more about how Wales lost this game rather than how Fiji won it off their own backs, with Caleb Muntz specifically steering the ship so that they were always in the game. Which neatly brings me on to the third game I mentioned, Fiji's recent international with Australia, where Caleb literally didn't put a foot wrong. He attacked space, moved the ball, and crucially managed the game perfectly. Literally, he couldn't have done anything else. It's one of the great tragedies for Fiji sport that they didn't win this game, as Caleb put them into a dominant position in the dying moments of the game where Fiji were up on the scoreboard and on Australia's 22. And one of the second rows, who looked a bit tired, just dived at the ruck and the ref pings him for going off his feet. Oz kicked the ball upfield and a couple pens more and the Wallabies grind their way over to avoid defeat. Heartbreaking. But this is the game that actually sold me on Caleb Muntz and gave me the confidence to want to make this video. I believe he is an international level fly half and the real deal. And having a potentially world-class player, whatever you want to call that, at 10 can really change your fortunes in the international game, especially when you're trying to bridge the gap between being a tier 2 and tier 1 nation. As teams like Italy have come on leaps and bounds since the introduction of Paolo Garbisi into their ranks, a genuine running threat whilst also being a great game manager and goal kicker. And with his emergence, as well as a massive amount of investment of time and resources into the age group game in Italy, they have now found the sort of consistency that they could never have dreamed of 7-8 years prior. With constant finishes above Wales and Scotland at the under 26 nations level, and beating Wales every time for the last 3 years in the men's game. They're cooking, and I believe it's just the tip of the iceberg for them. Now, with Fiji having a similar gift being put in their lap, I believe they will have an equally realistic shot at making their success sustainable. Firstly, the introduction of the Fijian Drua and Moana Pacifica has done wonders for promising players of Pacific Island heritage, and the long time talked about idea of having a couple Pacific Island franchises becoming a reality has helped massively in kickstarting players' careers and getting them high level rugby regularly. This is especially true of Fijian Drua, playing at a level where a lot of the time they might be outgunned, and having players like Caleb learn in that environment can only be a good thing, especially when to win consistently they have to be so clever and well drilled. Secondly, Fiji has never had a talent problem that other maybe tier 2 nations have ever had in terms of player quality. It's all there for them, and with the right infrastructure, as we have seen, just giving them an opportunity has given them so much more to work with and expand upon. And Fijian players playing specialist influential positions at a high level in the last 3 years has increased massively, with their depth at scrum half and fullback now being ridiculous and just the norm. And thirdly and finally, Caleb Muntz has time to grow. Only being 25, the next 7-8 years are his. He's recently finalised a move to the Pro D2, where I hope he's a starter and continues to grow, while another up-and-comer comes through and makes that Drua 10 shirt theirs. I believe wholeheartedly Caleb will lead Fiji minimum to the quarterfinals of the next World Cup in 2027. And I hope he makes history and gets them even further than that, taking him and Fiji to the next level. Caleb Muntz might not be the flashiest name in rugby right now, but for Fiji, he might just be the most important. His rise just isn't about performance, it's about potential for him and for Fiji themselves. And this next crop coming through with regular game time in Super Rugby might end up being Fiji's golden generation in the coming years. Fijian flair and power with a couple cool heads running the show? Sounds tasty to me. Signed, NGJ.